here. I think I look rather dashing.
Happy Friday!
Happy Friday!
So we figured out the face thingy. Problem is, I'm not sure we can turn it off after we start.
You know, it would be really funny if we turned it off and I still was wearing these glasses and a bow tie. Anyway, hello.
Hello.
I'm Julie, so are Mim.
I'm Sean, Father MTO. Welcome to Daily Dose of...
Psychedelics?
Sure.
Ish. We'll get into that. We'll get into terminology and what I consider to be a psychedelic.
All right. I'll try not to flip the camera around.
Well, how do I take off these glasses? Wouldn't it be funny if it gave you a monocle?
Kind of. Find a face.
Your face. Okay, seriously though, how do we turn that
I
off?
don't think I can after we start.
See what he did?
I'm going to try to go back.
Yeah.
You want to restart
It's distracting. Right? Or are y'all cool with it? If you comment before we get rid of this, let me know. We can't even see comments. Just one all in the background.
Right?
Real chill.
You know, alright, well.
Alright.
Well, I know how to turn it off now at least, but...
Formal Fridays it is.
Have to do it before we start next time.
Welcome to your daily dose of entheogenic and psychoactive plants.
See, you're lecturing. You're like a little professor with your little glasses on and stuff.
Yay. So I prefer the term psychoactive plants because what I want to do, if I could do anything tonight, is to help expand people's opinions and thoughts of what constitutes a psychoactive plant. So one of the things that I tend to think about quite often is using psychoactives in children. How many of y'all give your kids psychoactive plants? I do. We see it.
You're so crazy.
On the shelves everywhere. I know we've all seen lavender in baby lotion or in baby shampoo. So to me, lavender is very much... Hang on.
No, it working?
No, please. Keep messing with the screen.
Well, I'm trying to see if I can turn this off while you're talking. Sorry.
Okay. We'll do take two.
Alright, we'll be right back. And take two.
Welcome back.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I'm Sean, Father MTO.
I'm Julie, so are Mim.
And welcome to your daily dose of...
Psychedelic plants.
What? Drum roll.
Psychedelic plants.
Psychedelic plants.
Yes. Like I was saying a couple seconds ago, before I was so rudely interrupted.
Sorry, we shan't play with the facial things anymore.
Yeah, I still don't know what's going on with that. But I tend to think of psychoactive plants as anything that can affect our mind or alter our state of consciousness in any way. So things like lavender can very much be a psychoactive substance. How many of you out there have actually had an experience where you smell something and it immediately takes you back to childhood? I know I have. My mother's perfume, for example, is very much a psychoactive scent to me. It takes me back to a time when my mother was still around and all of those feelings come rushing back. So it very much has an effect on my state of mind. It changes my state of mind from where I am currently and physically into a completely different state. And that is what I consider a psychoactive plant to be. So beyond just the term psychedelic or entheogenic, I prefer the term psychoactive. What about you? Any experiences that you want to bring before we get into it?
I think the one smell that always takes me back somewhere was, so my dad was my high school principal, but he was a really cool dad, so like...
He is a really cool dad.
Well, yes, he is.
Yes.
All my friends used to come over to our house like all the time. We had a ping pong table and everything. My dad would play and everybody enjoyed him. But we were always the first ones to know if there was a snow day.
Ah.
And so I would call all my friends before they even knew. Be like, tomorrow's a snow day. And they'd all come over. And my mom would always either bake like homemade bread or homemade cinnamon rolls, one of the two.
Not cookies?
Nope,
She
bread.
still bakes those all the time for us.
And, we'd cut those big old slices of bread with butter on them and eat them while we played Risk. So anytime I smell bread cooking or cinnamon, like homemade cinnamon rolls, not like the bought ones, that's, for some reason, that always takes me back to snow days.
Mm. Awesome. That's a good one. The smell of tar and oil reminds me of Daddy.
Eek.
Yeah, but it's a comforting smell to me.
Right.
So little things like that. That is very much
Because he was a roofer, right?
He was a roofer,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So that smell brings me back to Daddy. And it's so strange. I still have some things of his, and if I smell them, it still smells exactly like Daddy did, which is, it's just funny to think about. So anything that is psychoactive, anything that really changes your mindset or takes you to a different place, whether that's a place in time, a place in space, a place psychologically, just changing your mindset into something new. So that is what I consider to be something psychedelic. Going into that with regard to plants and other herbs, we tend to not think of something as psychedelic if it's not trippy or doesn't get us high in a way. So something like I was mentioning earlier, lavender is very much a psychoactive plant. It can calm, it can soothe. Chamomile is another really great example. Or something like caffeine within black tea or something can be very stimulating.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We actually have to watch his level of caffeine. Have to be careful with that. So all of those little different types of things not just affect you psychologically or mentally, but they also have a very real effect on your body physiologically. So something like caffeine can make you shaky if you're not used to it or if you don't imbibe it regularly, or something like, what's another good example?
Well, we brought up good things, right? Like lavender and chamomile, which tend to be calming, and memories. What about things that put you into a bad place?
Oh, well, there's a few different avenues we can go with that. So something that puts us in a bad place, the smell of smoke might take somebody to a bad place, depending on trauma or past experiences. People may not really prefer cannabis, and it kind of gives them that uneasy feeling. Or I remember the first time I tried cannabis, I hated it. It made me feel like I was out of control of my body, and I was dating a guy at the time, and was really trying to impress him.
Wait,
but I
what?
felt very jealousy in Leos, man. I'm telling you, it's awful. It's awful. It's not a virtue. Not a good look either. But when I first tried cannabis, I was 22 years old, and I hated it. I was like twitching, and I could have sworn that he felt the couch twitch too, along with me. He didn't notice it, but I felt very twitchy, and I hated it. Fast forward 12 years, and that's a different story now. But
I was thinking more like, what about something like an old jilted lover's perfume? You brought up your mom's perfume that puts you in a good place because you remember your mom. What about
I can smell
the
Aqua
cologne,
de Jo anywhere.
the cologne or perfume of an old jilted
Is
lover?
that what made you think of it?
No, I just...
Not jilted, but
Well,
yeah, I know my ex's
that puts you in a
perfume
bad
anywhere.
space, right? Bad headspace, potentially.
Potentially, depending on what it is, yeah. Or I was thinking like smoke. Somebody gone through trauma with, whether that be cigarette smoke or a house burning down type of smoke. There's all different kinds of places that our mind can be taken based on scent. And not even with regard to constituents within a plant, which is a whole other issue. But I wanted to just briefly touch on psychedelics and what that means overall. So if you do want to start working with some psychoactive plants, I would certainly do a lot of soul searching first. Start out that way. Find out something that really means something to you, whether that is the smell of lavender or even fresh baked cookies. What is it about that cookie that takes you back? Is it the smell? Is it the scent? Is it, if you could break down that cookie into different parts and constituents, is it the brown sugar within it? Is it the chocolate within it? What is it that really kind of takes you somewhere? And try to get down to its most basic part, specifically the plant that it came from. and try to cultivate a relationship with that. But we can get into ways to do that there. You were going to say? You're going to say something?
Nope.
Oh, come on.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I'm just listening.
Okay, so...
She's smart.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Miss, I have 2 master's degrees.
Shush. Anyway, so one of the things that I really implore my students to do when we start into our Intro to Magical Herbs class, the psychedelic portion is the very last class that we do, because I really do want to create a basis of what plants are, who they are, how you can meet them, where you can meet them, and how to cultivate a relationship with them before you start to even ingest them in the first place. So in order to do that, I recommend the best way you could possibly get to know a plant, and a psychedelic at that, is to grow it yourself. I have grown everything from peyote to psychedelic mushrooms to all the solanaceas you can name and their various counterparts. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can get to know a plant, but I recommend growing it. If you can find one out in the wild, even one of its cousins.
My precious.
Think about plants and psychedelics, especially as people. They have a spirit, they have their own virtues, they have their own personalities. Even within, will you give me that again? So our children are learning about botany right now. So we're learning about stem structures and things like that. So this is something that they're working on currently. But these are 2 different kinds of mint. Now, if we were to think about mint as a person, think of it as a family line, kind of. I have cousins who I love and are awesome. I have other cousins who I'd really rather not spend time with, but we're all part of the same family. So if you were to talk about...
Chocolate mint?
Good job. That is chocolate mint. And which one is that?
Spearmint?
Yes. See, he's good. We have like 5 different kinds of mint out there. But my children picked these 2, so we're learning about root structures. But these are both in the same family. They're Lamiaceae plants. These are mints.
Does that mean they're going to fight?
In general.
Especially at the holidays?
Right? It is very much like personality traits. So you start to think about individuals. Spearmint is, even just looking at it, it's a little feisty, it's a little more prickly and spiny and kind of has a little bit of an attitude to it. The way it tastes is the same way. It hits your tongue in a different way, as opposed to chocolate mint, which is a lot more mild. It's sweeter. She's nicer. When you think about psychedelic plants, think about them in terms of personalities and personality traits and who they are in general. So when it comes to something like mushrooms, for example.
Oh boy.
Whew.
Oh boy.
I know, I'm already getting a little overwhelmed thinking about it. But
oh boy.
Mushrooms are the same way. You can look at the overall type of mushroom, for example, a Amanita species, which has its own personality, as opposed to a psilocybe species, which has a whole other type of personality. And there are some mushrooms, even something like shiitake, which has a much more mild, personable type of personality. We have them in our food, we have them just kind of around on our dinner plates. They're just there, and they're part of the family. They're part of us as humans and our culture in a lot more ways than something like psilocybin would be. So when it comes to thinking about plants as psychedelic substances, don't think of them as something to use or something that you can only get something out of. That is a huge, huge issue that I see with so many people who come to me who are looking for a psychedelic experience and are wanting to take their mind somewhere else. They're looking at the plant or the substance as a tool as opposed to as an ally. And that is your first mistake. I get very passionate about that when I see people who are just like, okay, well, just give me this, and I just want to get high, or I just want to take this for, even, especially for spiritual substances, or spiritual uses, rather.
Excuse me.
People say, you know, I really want to meet my, and I lost some people there. I really want to meet my holy guardian angel, or I want to meet some of my guardians, or some of my, what do other people say? Spirit animals or spirits that are around them. So they want to take mushrooms, or they want to use cannabis for that purpose, to meet somebody somewhere else. And if I were to go up to somebody's door and just say, hey, I need you to go take me to my cousin really quick, most people, if I knock on their door, are going to be like, are you okay? Do you need something? Or they're just going to slam the door right back in my face. So think about it in terms of people and relationship, not so much as something to use. That is not even taking into account the kind of substance that we're talking about here. Next thing is also be sure that you are not abusing any type of a plant in a way, again, as a way or a means of using it for your own purposes. That's also why I really implore people to grow their own, create a relationship with it, let them get to know you first rather than the other way around. It takes a long time to really get to know somebody if you first meet them. I wouldn't automatically invite myself over to somebody's house or invite me into their bed or be like, hey, can I lick you? Can I eat you? Out of nowhere. Same thing with plants as people.
Depends on the person.
Hey now, don't call me out. But yes, it depends on the person. Oh, Kenny, I highly doubt that. Ken said he's never been much of a plant person. He can kill mold. I've given you plants that are still alive.
I just know you have to be really careful with amanitas, because if you're not, you can kill the little smurfs that live inside.
That too. The other thing to look at with regard to plants,
I'm only comic relief on this topic.
No, I disagree, is something like lore, the lore of the plant. Where does it come from? Amanitas, as a great example, we all know what that mushroom looks like, even if we don't know that it's an amanita. So the red mushroom with the white spots, it's in everything. It's in our video games that Smurfs live in. Yeah, it's in our cartoons. It's in our culture with regard to Santa and Christmas and reindeers and psychedelia in general. There's a whole lot that goes into it. But if you don't know that plant and you don't know its backstory, then it's really hard for you to respect it on a deeper level. And so then your experience with that plant could then be tainted if you're not treating it respectfully. These are not things to be used. They're not things to be trifled with. They're not things in general. They are people, and we have to respect them as such. Yes.
Trifled or truffled with?
Trifled with. Did I say truffled?
No. But
truffle.
Now you get it.
I get it. Took me a second.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm useless.
Oh, hush. I will put a link down to my Bible that is very, very well loved. It is the Encyclopedia of Psychoactive Plants.
And it's like...
This is, I think, my second or third copy. Yes, I love this book so much. It is my everything.
Hey. Hello.
Leos, y'all. Anyway, it tells you everything from the most important genera and species from A to Z. Every type of psychedelic substance that can be found in nature or in the wild, and even those that are synthetic, can be found in this book. So definitely highly recommended. Even if you're not one to experiment with ingesting psychedelics, just knowing where they come from. If you are a healer or a facilitator for a group or anybody who is undergoing psychedelic therapies, this is invaluable. With that being said, where I would recommend you starting with any psychedelic plant if you can, would actually be with just sitting with something like chamomile or lavender and getting two of the same plant, same species, and sitting with them and feeling which one you have a closer connection to. I tend to grow way too many plants at once and all over the place.
No.
Yes.
No.
But I start seeds
no,
in the fall or in the winter. Oh, there's hundreds in here. Hundreds in here and outside.
10 just in my view right here.
Oh, that's 10
Oh,
pots.
11. I didn't count the Jericho flower.
Well, there's like 10 different plants in there. Anyway, so sit with two of the exact same plant. Same species, same genus, same everything that you possibly can. And see which one is a little more personable to you. I would grow tens of different solanaceous species, henbanes, belladonnas, mandrakes, and some of them would just be my friend and some would not be my friend. Same thing with people. You know, I would really like this one person in this group or this one person in that family, but yeah, their sister, not so much. So it really just depends on you creating a relationship with them. Once you create a sufficient relationship with them, which only you and the plant can determine that, then you can start to move forward with getting to know each other on a deeper, more intimate level, including ingestion. So if you do get to that point, start to experiment with the different types of chamomile that you have with you. Sleep with them, not just sexually, but sleep with them under your pillow. Carry them with you on a daily basis.
Under your pillow?
Yeah.
Once you maybe crush them, just put them under your pillow.
Not the plant itself, not living plant, but ask if you could have some of their hair or pieces of their fingernail. Do the same.
Like a leaf.
Like a leaf. And put that under your pillow.
Just trying to help clarify.
Yeah, see, I expect everybody to be where I am on the same level.
Oh. And I have the ego.
Oh, no, it is hard to recognize that not everybody works with plants like I do. So they are people. And again, you just want to respect them as such. Give as much of yourself as you can to them. I wouldn't recommend going straight into things like blood magic. Don't give your urine to them. Sometimes that can be bad depending on any medications you take. So just be careful with that. I always give pieces of my hair to my plants all the time. So that's just something that I do on a regular basis. I listen to them. Just sitting and listening is huge. When you do want to get into taking things that are a little bit more psychedelic or entheogenic, such as cannabis or psilocybin mushrooms, be sure that set and setting is exactly where you want it to be. That is huge. A lot of people discount it or take some of these plants in recreational means. I know that that is becoming a lot more popular, especially with regard to things like cannabis, but do be careful with that. If you are trying to go into a relationship with a certain psychedelic plant for spiritual and gnosis, spiritual purposes and some form of gnosis for yourself, or getting into a relationship with that plant, you don't want to do it in a recreational setting or in that manner unless you already have developed a relationship with it. As for experiences with some of these, well, I would like you to share a little bit about something like ayahuasca. That is huge. That is everywhere lately. At least, a few years back, it was the big thing, the cool thing to do, was ayahuasca. But what is ayahuasca and what does that mean? What is ayahuasca? It's a tea, right?
It's a tea of mixture of 2 or more ingredients.
Specifically 2. 2 ingredients, because dimethyltryptamine or DMT, which is the psychoactive
DMT
ingredient.
And then the MAOI.
Look at him. See, he does pay attention. So the dimethyltryptamine is not, it cannot pass the blood-brain barrier. You cannot get high just from drinking DMT without a monoamine oxidase inhibitor in order for it to get to the brain. DMT is an endogenous substance, which means that your brain does make it. There are theories and studies that have shown that near-death experience or the light at the end of the tunnel or voices or beings that you see during an NDE, for example, or even in certain dream states are the result of dimethyltryptamine being synthesized in the brain. There hasn't been anything to say definitively whether or not that is happening, but there are a lot of studies that have shown that possibly that could be the case. In that case, the brain does not want to release DMT, does not want you to feel the effects of DMT unless it is absolutely necessary. So drinking it will not do anything. It will just pass right through you. What you do want to do is have that monoamine oxidase inhibitor or that MAOI in order to get it to go into the brain, and then you can feel the effects of it. But what does that feel like?
I wouldn't know.
He knows. It feels like death. It feels like you are dying, like you will die, like this is it. It is very, very terrifying. It is not anything that I would undergo in a recreational setting whatsoever. I've heard people say that.
I know people who have done it.
I know people who've done it, and
I don't know how.
but you also look at their experiences in their life. Where are they now with regard to their psychedelic journey? Many of them are still kind of doing the same thing that they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So recognize that this is a journey and a path that you have to respect if you're going to walk it. When it comes to working with solanaceous plants or poison witchcraft herbs, things like belladonna and mandrake, they tend to be much more friendly to me. DMT is very much a motherly type of spirit, and it also depends on the
stepmother, maybe,
on the herb that you get it from. Well, mimosa versus acacia, for example, they tend to be very different experiences. They tend to be different spirits that come to you. One is certainly much more motherly and stern than the other, so you do want to be careful too with what herbs that you're mixing within that. But back to the solanaceous herbs, so working with mandrake or working with belladonna or henbane or datura, which is my love, they tend to be much friendlier, but I don't tend to ingest them in the same way. I will in diluted portions or in teas and things like that, as opposed to something like DMT where you actually have to extract it from a plant, and there's a very real process that goes along with that, which I think takes away some of the spirit of the plant itself. So in any case where you can ingest the herb whole and all of its parts and components, I would certainly do that. If you do want to make something of a tea, for example, like with psilocybin, it tends to be, your body tends to digest it a little bit better with less upset in the form of a tea, but I would still eat the sludge and all the stuff that goes along with it.
So my question, we know we can get effects from smoking various herbs, cannabis. We know we can get effects from eating some types of herbs, a la psilocybin,
cannabis,
edibles. Can you, and we've alluded to this already in the beginning, can you get psychedelic effects by breathing or smelling these herbs? Some of them.
It depends on what you mean by psychedelic effects, but it depends on the substance.
Right, but can you get psychedelic effects from certain herbs by merely smelling?
Absolutely. But I don't think that it's necessarily a constituent or a chemical that is causing that effect. In that case, it's very much the spirit of the plant, at least in my experience.
A connection that you've made.
A relationship.
Within yourself.
Exactly.
What about just merely touching one?
Yes, just sitting next to one. Absolutely. I am very careful with my peyote when I touch it. For example, I try not to touch my peyote. When it comes to my other plants, like my datura is like being pet. I know that's kind of strange, but they like when I talk to them and I feel them, and they tend to thrive a lot more than that. Whereas peyote kind of likes to be left alone.
Well, and I was leaning towards too, where we excuse me, we made a tincture of Amanita muscaria.
Ah, yes.
And when you just got it on your fingertips, it made you buzzy.
I got very buzzy, very kind of high.
We have a fly in here.
Speaking of buzzy. I was not wearing gloves when I was filtering a tincture that I was making with Amanita. And I realized within just a couple seconds of touching this alcohol extracted Amanita that I was feeling kind of woozy. So I had to sit down and I had to have Sean finish it for me, because I shouldn't have touched it without gloves. That was a pretty big deal. I was in the middle of teaching a class as well, so I kind of had to step aside for a second, haven't finished that. So that was a little overwhelming. So yes, absolutely. And even just being around a plant, like I was speaking earlier, just sitting with it, just being near it can cause very real changes within your psyche and within yourself and your soul.
Why is that?
Level. It's all about relationship. I feel like that I kind of beat that horse ad nauseum. It's all about relationship and connection to the other.
Could it also potentially be an astral?
Well, what is astral?
The aura of the plant affecting your aura, and that sinks in and eventually has some kind of effect on you?
If we're talking aura, what is an aura?
The sphere of sensation of a plant.
Which is what? Does a table have an aura?
Is the table alive?
I'm asking you. To me, yes, it is. Everything is alive. There's no difference between me and this chair that I'm sitting on. If I get down to the very minuscule parts and pieces and the atoms and everything between us, there is no line between my leg and this chair. So to me, yes, it very much does. Some people aren't animistic in that sense and tend to think of things only alive as having an aura or a personality or a spirit in that sense. So absolutely, it's a spirit that is affecting you and your spirit, or your sphere of sensation, in my opinion. Yeah. When it comes to things like ingesting DMT or psilocybin or whatever it may be, always have a sitter or somebody on call to help, just in case, unless you're very familiar and you're used to doing that. I feel perfectly fine smoking cannabis on my own and by myself, for example, but I could not do something like DMT by myself. That I need somebody there just in case, because it is such an overwhelming and terrifying feeling of death. Even though logically I know I'm not dying and I am breathing, and I can't feel my body tell me that I'm breathing. So I need somebody else there to kind of speak through that and to speak to me through that experience that I'm having. But that's the importance of having a sitter and knowing what it is that you're ingesting. You also want to be, it has a mind of its own. What doesn't have a mind of its own? You also want to be careful with regard to any other medications or interactions that you may already be undergoing, and the thing that you're ingesting. So for example, I have to be really careful with Sean and some of his medications as well as some of my medications that I take. I can't take two things together, but I only recommend that you do your research and talk to somebody who's experienced with taking different psychedelics or knowing herb and drug interactions to be safe and on the safe side. Anytime that we have helped other people undergo a psychedelic experience, it's always been within a ritualistic atmosphere, and it has taken extensive discussions and debriefings even before we go into it to help somebody do it successfully and to get out of it what they're looking for. I'm a little bit unsure of how much deeper to go with some things publicly.
Yeah, I think when it comes to us having, I mean, because there's plenty of other psychedelics out there that are
tobacco
obtainable
everywhere,
and legal, Blue Lotus, different things like that, and
even Amanita.
We've always taken that very seriously and not just, hey, come on over and have some Amanita tea. It's come over, we'll set a stage, we'll set a ritual atmosphere customized for you with whatever the person wants, whether that's drumming or, ritual and vibration or whatever it might be. Set that atmosphere so that they have the utmost experience that they can have with whatever particular herb they're working with.
And we would always be able to tell back when we had the shop. So those who don't know, I specialize in psychedelic and entheogenic and rare herbs, and that was what our shop specialized in. When I first moved to the Denver area, I was looking for an apothecary or a metaphysical shop that could help me with some of the herbs that I was trying to procure, could not find it. So we decided to build one, and that's what we did. But I would always be able to tell what people were looking for when they came in. If somebody came in and asked if we had Mysteriopsis caapi and Mimosa hostilis, I knew exactly what they were looking for, and I knew that they knew their stuff. If I had somebody come in and say, hey, do you have ayahuasca? I know that you're not quite as versed
and haven't done the research.
In knowing what it is that you're doing, and that is huge. These plants will take advantage of you if you allow them.
And which, incidentally, if you go to South America, to some of the places where ayahuasca is completely legal and they have
Peru.
Official ceremonies and things you go through, you'll usually spend a week leading up to it or starting in small doses, and a lot of that is training and teaching about the spirit of the herb so that you do have that respect for it, and it's not just, hey, I'm going on a recreational binge for a week down to Peru.
And they even have you undergo la dieta. There's a diet that you have to do. You have to abstain from certain foods just to be sure that you're getting the cleansing that you need. Ayahuasca is very much a cleansing and purgative process. La purga, it is, yeah, and that is awful. If you've ever done ayahuasca, it's out both ends at once, depending on how much you have to get rid of within your body spiritually, and that is not fun, and especially when it takes so long, hours, for your body to process all of it and to get through it. It is not a fun process, and I don't see why anybody would really want to undergo that. I found a different means of getting to the same place without the gastrointestinal upset. It's a much faster, stronger, scarier process. But as soon as you're done and over with, it's less than an hour and you are sober as the day you were born, hopefully, if you were born sober. So it's very much, it took years of me working through how to extract certain alkaloids and different properties of the plants to get to a point where we were in a mutual relationship with each other and were able to do so successfully and safely. And then it took me more years to get the permission to help others undergo and to take the same substance in the same way. I had to get permission from that plant first to be able to do that. And that took a long time. She told me no for a very long time. And then once I started to, it went well for a while, and then she shut it off again. So haven't walked anybody through that. It's been a few years now.
Yep.
Yeah. But kind of a quick and dirty overview of psychedelia and how to work with plants and how to start to cultivate a relationship with them and make sure that it's something mutually beneficial. You are giving something to the plant as well. And so you need to be sure that you are providing everything that you can offer to them. That includes growing them and giving them the nutrients and the light and the proper space that they need to grow effectively. And then you can start to deepen that relationship, just like with any other relationship.
Indeed.
Yeah. I don't know what time we're at, but I feel like I talked a lot. I will end up talking forever about psychedelics if given the chance, but I am going to start doing my intro to magical herbs again and how to work with herbs in general. We go through different processes, different families and areas of herbs as well, and psychedelic is the last portion, and it's always something fun that we get to do together. We get to walk through things together. Yeah. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want to know a little bit more about different types of psychedelics or mushrooms or anything, let's chat. If you want to get real scientific with me, hit me up. Because that's my favorite part. I don't have anybody to talk to about like real nitty gritty. He's not as into it as much as I am. Like, this is my Bible.
Mine's here somewhere. Right there.
Yeah, his is the big Golden Dawn black book. It's both black and gold. But yes, Christian Ratch, I will give a link down for this below. I should have taken some stuff out to show and tell. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. But this weekend, I'm hoping to do a little bit of journeying myself. Haven't done anything in quite a while, so yeah, I think that this might be a good space to do so. I feel safe enough, far enough away from everybody.
Some psychotic exercises.
Psychotic work this weekend, so if you want to see that. Well, it depends on what you're wanting to grow, Christy. You know.
Yeah, we live in a tiny RV and we have like 80 plants, so...
That's just in this room.
If you just got a closet, you're good.
Yeah, you should see our bathroom. It's fun. It's like a jungle in there. But yeah.
What is our bath mat made of again? The one that's outside the shower?
Different kinds of mosses.
Oh yeah, it's moss.
They love it. He makes fun of me.
And we have a bamboo by the toilet, and we have another something in the shower. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple things in the shower.
See?
We have some ivies and some orchids and some other things. But anyway.
Orchids. That's the one I was thinking of.
Orchids.
Yep.
If you are interested in seeing some of the experiences, I don't know. I'm debating whether or not to video myself during these psychotic exercises.
Well, we always tape ourselves.
We always tape ourselves. Well, go
not
live,
public.
rather.
No. I don't think so.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So yeah, cool. If you do have any questions, let us know. If you have experiences that you've had with certain plants or otherwise, let's chat. And thanks again to everybody who's been sending us some PMs. We love it. Keep it coming.
We done?
Well, I could go on forever.
I know.
But yeah.
Much more you than me today.
So anyway, thanks for being here.
Thank you guys.
Happy Friday.
Yay!
Yay!
I need a day off.
We live very, very peaceful, nice lives. So
It's always nice to have that day off, though.
He's poking fun at himself. We're lucky.
Right.
We're very fortunate to live the life that we do. So, yes.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for being here.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.